The norm in our society is that people are disconnected from who they are. Consumer culture and the culture of influencers, the culture art of disconnection, is why so many people are suffering from physical and mental illness, all of which comes from this disconnection from our nature. These behaviors that are called mental illness, they all have a function of processing unresolved trauma. Are we aware? Are we conscious? Are we making deliberate choices? Or are we driven by unconscious pain? Which kind of pain would you rather one have? The pain of self-repression or the pain of loss of certain attachments? Do you see a divine design in our wounds? There's something about our nature, some kind of intelligence within that wants us to be authentic to ourselves. People need freedom, political freedom, economic freedom, social freedom from their unconscious emotions so they can be themselves. And that's what I think the essential endeavor of all great work that's been done in the world is, the desire for freedom. We develop friendships, relationships in our external reality based on an inauthentic version of ourselves that we hold on to dearly. And then, coming back to discover who we are, going through this process of reclaiming our authentic selves, there will often be a collapse of our world and of relationships that were attached to an inauthentic version of ourselves. Yes. So what advice do you have for people that may be going through that or will be going through that when they claim more of their authentic self? Because there's a kind of perceived death in a way that happens when you're releasing who you're not. If you start asserting your real feelings and saying no where there's a no wanting to come out, some people in your life that you've been trained to see you a certain way are not going to like it. And so we talk about this tension between attachment, belonging, being accepted, and authenticity. As a child, you don't have a choice. Whenever it comes to a struggle between attachment and authenticity, you have to choose attachment, give up authenticity. Now, as an adult, if you start choosing authenticity, say, in a marriage that's really not working, you and your partner don't want to look at yourselves in any way or to work on working on it. As you grow and as you change, you become more authentic, they're not going to like it. Now you have to make a decision. Do I still choose attachment and suppress authenticity? Or do I choose authenticity at the risk of losing attachment? What it comes down to is not whether you'll have pain or not, but which kind of pain will you rather have? Would you rather choose the pain of self-repression or the choice of the loss of certain attachments? I can almost guarantee that when you choose yourself and authenticity, you'll have new attachments that are a higher level, more respectful, more genuine, more meaningful, more satisfying. But not at first. There may be an estrangement, so it's a question of which pain you want to have. The pain of suppressing yourself, believing that it will cause pain, or the pain of losing some attachments. It's the choice you have. It's like, do you choose the pain or do you continue to let the pain choose you? Well, exactly. Now eventually the pain will be what? Sensitivity, creativity, and vulnerability. Healing, okay. But you'll have to go through that process. That's why so many people are afraid to go through it. Beautiful. And that awareness, like you're speaking to, that's so important to even begin the process or have the desire. Yes, and in Eastern philosophy, there's not a lot of talk about creativity. In my view, and I love the framework you give about how sensitivity is tied to our creativity, because creativity is a huge part of why we're here. We're creative beings. We use the life force energy to bring things out from the unmanifested to the manifested. And a lot of times, our sensitivity can be seen as something that's hindering, rather than a superpower. And how do you view the relationship between the two? Well, sensitivity is simply a characteristic that people tend to be born with. It's probably significantly genetically determined. And the more sensitive you are, the word sensitive itself comes from the Latin, meaning to feel, meaning to sense. The more sensitive you are, the more you feel. Now, the more you feel, of course, the more you absorb and sense and integrate with the environment. That's what artists do, poets, artists, actors, creators, sculptors, actors, dancers. Like they have this antenna out there just pulling energy in. That really drives what you call the superpower of creativity. But that very sensitivity also makes them more susceptible to pain. Because that same touch that would be experienced as trivial by somebody less sensitive can really hurt the sensitive person. So when you get sensitivity combined with trauma or stress, you need to protect yourself more. Hence, the high rate of addiction among actors and musicians because they're sensitive people. They're hurting more. Yeah, they need to escape more. Addiction. And you get a Hollywood story after story of some great star scattering their addiction and So that very sensitive temperament in a supportive, loving environment just becomes a great creative, leader, joyful, intuitive person. But in an unsupportive environment, they become more distorted, more hurt, more defensive. The creativity doesn't go away, but it's the creativity that begins to serve the personality. And so you look at all these great artists and actors and musicians who, their work is so great that it leads them to stardom, but on a personal level they're just dying, and sometimes literally dying. They die. And there's many examples of it. Yes, it's like the sensitivity is almost like we'll have a piano and from all the way to the end up top, like the whole spectrum. The more sensitive we are, the more access we have within that spectrum of like the human experience. Exactly. So it's amazing to be able to access the full piano to the whole spectrum of our emotions to this human experience. But I think, the invitation that you're sharing is to not let it just serve your personality, but to allow it to be an expression from your soul. Exactly, and not just our conditioning. Exactly. Yeah. In the book, The Myth of Normal, we give the example of Aretha Franklin, by the way, which did a wonderful documentary about her where she gave a concert, I think here in LA. Maybe in some church here when she was quite young, and she was just channeling God. I mean, that's the only way you can put it, and that just came because she was, and then she has this song, RBCT Respect, which is a kind of anthem of the women's movement, and she herself was not respected at all. She was an abused child and an abused woman. She had a wonderful, amazing creativity, incredible talent, but she was thwarted her true self in her personal life. And I think that contributed to the illness that killed her. As you've grown on your journey and the vast amount of experience that you've accumulated in life, do you see a divine design within our wounds? For example, nature is obviously intelligent. It's not necessarily a higher power and a God and a guy sitting on the clouds, but nature's intelligence almost in a way that it feels like it's giving us our wounds so that we can strategically move through what we need to move through to gain true access to ourselves. And therefore, 3, gain true access to ourselves through your experience working with so many people on the other side of our challenges are our gifts. So how do you feel that connection is there? And do you feel like that is a kind of divine design within our wounds and how it shows up and the purpose it serves? So, the Greek player Aeschylus had in one of his plays the statement that Master Zeus created us so that we have to suffer, suffering into truth. So when you talk about divine design, I just think I don't want to go to the question of divinity, but there's something about our nature. There's some kind of intelligence within that wants us to be authentic to ourselves. Not just us, any creature in the world, a plant, an animal, anything. And there's a wonderful spiritual teacher and psychological theorist called Almasa Ma, from whom I've learned a lot. And he writes the following. He says your conflicts, all the difficult, problematic situations in your life, are not random or haphazardous. They're actually specifically yours, designed for you by a part of you that loves you more than anything else. A part of you that loves you more than anything else has created roadblocks to lead you to yourself. You're not going in the right direction too unless something is poking you in the side saying, "Look here." That's how much a part of you loves you that it doesn't want you to miss the opportunity. It will go to extreme measures to wake you up. It will make you suffer a lot if you don't listen. What else can it do? Now, that may seem harsh coming from a physician, but physical illness often is an opportunity for people to wake up. I don't wish that. Thank you for listening to the whole video. Wish you all the best. If you find it interesting, please support with a like, subscribe to the channel, share the video. Many people are doing this too.